This episode of the Pivot to Balance podcast is sponsored by Riverside.fm, the leading platform to record studio quality podcasts from anywhere. More than 70,000 other podcasts use Riverside, including myself, Gary Vee, Spotify, even the New York Times. What's amazing about Riverside is that when you're recording a podcast or remote interview, recording is independent of Wi-Fi stability, which is huge because content is recorded locally, which ensures reliable and uncompressed content quality. It is super intuitive and easy to use. Once your recording is done, you'll automatically be able to download separate audio and video tracks and edit your content with a few clicks. If you use social media, you also get magic clips from Riverside, which I love. So if you haven't tried Riverside yet, visit riverside.fm and use my code Akay15, which is AKAY15, to start recording studio quality sound and video and get 15% off a membership plan. Once again, it's riverside.fm. Use code AKAY15 to start recording today. Hey, before we dive into this week's episode, if you've been enjoying the show, I'd love your support. Take just 10 seconds to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps others discover the wisdom and inspiration that I share on the Pivot to Balance podcast. Let's build a community of balance seekers together. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to share the love. Now let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome to the Pivot to Balance podcast. I'm your host, Akay, and I hope you're doing well. In a world that pulls us in a million different directions and with a billion distractions, finding balance can feel like an ambiguous quest. Join me on this podcast as I try to navigate life's twists and turns with mindfulness, purpose, and grace. In each episode, we will dive into topics like self-care, personal growth, mindset shifts by sharing practical insights, stories, and maybe even interviews. Get ready to pivot, to recalibrate, and find your balance. Follow the Pivot to Balance podcast, and I will see you on the other side. In today's episode, we are going to talk about 10 things that emotionally strong people do not do. And it's taken me a while to realize these concepts, and not to say that I'm emotionally very intelligent or very strong, but I'm definitely much better than where I was a couple years ago. Let's start off with the first one. They do not avoid their emotions. Emotionally strong individuals do not suppress or ignore their feelings. Instead, they acknowledge and process them. Of course, the timing of it is what's more important here. For example, let's say that you're really angry with someone. An emotionally intelligent person, what they would do here is express it in a healthy way. For example, constructive communication. How I tend to deal with anger is mostly just reaching out to the person. First of all, checking with them. Hey, there's something I need to talk to you about. Are you in the mental space to receive it? And this is something that I learned very recently. I would have probably implemented that with a couple of my friends if I had the opportunity to. I learned about this recently. If you want to talk to someone about something, reach out to them and tell them that you want to talk about something before you tell them, hey, we need to talk. Because I think more often than not, what that does is put them in a place of not being armed, I guess, not having the space to think about what it is that they want to say about that situation. So I think before you talk to someone, just let them know, hey, I want to talk to you about something, and give them, the topic or whatever the conversation's topic's about. Tell them, hey, this is what I want to talk to you about, but let me know when you are in a good place to talk about this and we'll talk about it. I don't want to force you to talk about this right now. That gives them space to come back to you with however it is that they are feeling. The second thing is they do not dwell on the past. I think a lot of us have this habit of bringing up the past within ourselves, with other people, mostly with other people. I think a lot of us do this with other people, right? Including myself. I've done this a couple of times too. We bring up the past, hey, you did this the last time we talked about this. I don't think it's helping anybody. It hinders personal growth and happiness, and it also brings about a lot of regret, right? Because yes, you may point out and tell them, hey, you did this, or they may point out and tell you that, hey, you did this. There's actually no gain from that. You're both just hurting each other, and there is no good that's going to come out of that conversation. So instead of obsessing over something that didn't work out the way you wanted it to, learn from it and focus on how can you make that better in the future. Let's say that you lost a competition. Instead of thinking about, oh my God, I cannot believe I lost that competition, I'm supposed to be a winner, learn from it and focus on future opportunities. The third thing is they do not engage in self-pity. Emotionally strong people don't wallow in self-pity most of the times. They take proactive steps to improve their situation. For example, after my 10th public exams, which is called public exams in India, I didn't get the grade that I was expecting to get, and I also had a very important event going on in my life at the time. Instead of focusing on the great event that was also happening in my life, I focused on not getting the grades that I wanted. And it really turned out to be a very shameful event because I was wallowing in front of like 5 different strangers, and it was not the best case scenario for me. I think from that situation, which was always talked about by the people that noticed me doing that, I just told myself, you're becoming the best version of yourself. So, I mean, when I look back at it, who cares? I do not care about, I don't even remember the grade that I got. So I think rather than complaining about circumstances, how can I get better? So, cool, if I scored this grade in 10th grade, how can I make this better in the 11th grade? How can I make this better in the 12th grade? Not that grades are that important, especially now when I look back. Even when I was in school, not as much. Just the 10th grade really bothered me. Emotionally strong people try not to self-pity. I think it's important to recognize your feelings. Tell yourself that, hey, I'm feeling sad, and that's okay. Telling yourself, hey, I could have done this better, that's fine. But then staying in that place for a long period of time is not going to help you or anyone else. The fourth thing is they do not seek validation from others. This may seem like, hey, this girl is always talking about her life like she has it all together, which is not true. But somehow, with social media and everything, I've had so many friends around me talking about they have these many likes, these many followers, and I've just never been that person who cared much about who was liking my posts, who was not liking my posts. Of course, I care if my friends are doing it. I'm obviously, you're my friend, you're supposed to like my posts and everything. But I just mean you do not need anybody's approval or opinions to feel good about yourself, because I think most of the times when we step out of that comfort zone of seeking validation from others, you sort of find yourself in a very new place. And that's an exciting place to be in. When I started my podcast, I did not tell anyone. The first one that I started, which was the Marketing Woman podcast, I didn't really tell anyone when I was planning on doing it. It took me 3 years to build that podcast because I was so scared of, who am I to talk about marketing? What do I know to talk about marketing? But then once I started, I told myself, well, this is how everybody gets started. There's a place for everybody to get started, and this is going to be mine. Maintaining self-confidence is more important than thinking about what other people are thinking about you. So instead of constantly seeking praise, emotionally strong people trust their abilities and make decisions based on their values. The fifth thing is they do not hold grudges. Kind of like something that I mentioned on 20s in Transition podcast, which is coming out in 2 days. This kind of ties into that, right? The fifth thing is they don't hold grudges. My personal goal for 2023 was to not take anything personally from the people that are not in my personal life. Emotionally strong individuals avoid harboring any, resentment, because it is so toxic to both your emotional and your mental well-being, right? When you think about a certain situation, it's mostly, again, this ties into not sticking to the past, right? Hey, you need to understand, as Kelly Clarkson said, nobody's a picture perfect. So you need to forgive people for whatever that they're doing and just release the negative energy associated with holding a grudge. I think it takes a lot of energy to hold a grudge, because it's just, why? Why do you want to be that person? I'm not saying that it's wrong to feel mad or it's wrong to feel like they did you wrong. That's totally fine to feel that. Feel the feelings, but let go of it. Don't keep it within you. The sixth thing is they do not avoid discomfort. We talked about this previously in the Embracing Change episode. If you haven't listened to that, go ahead and listen, because I think this will really help you level up in life. Emotionally strong people, they embrace discomfort as a means of personal growth and resilience. They do not shy away from challenges. Anything that makes you feel, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I cannot do this, please do it. Please do it. And just watch yourself prove yourself wrong, because there's nothing more exciting in this world than proving yourself wrong. It's such a contradicting statement to say, but I think it's such a fun thing. I love proving myself wrong. If I think, hey, you are not going to drive a car in the US, watch me prove myself wrong. I will do it if I wanted to. I don't think that. Let's say, for example, I thought that. I would prove myself wrong. Of course, take your time, You don't have to do anything that isn't safe for you. When I say all of these things, keep that in mind that safety is very important. Don't go tell people, oh, Anusha said I should take a risk, so I decided to climb onto like 5th floor of my building and jump out just to see if I'm Spider-Man. Like, don't do that kind of stuff. I'm saying just put yourself in situations where, for example, let's say that you don't want to go and talk in public. Go talk in public. Go talk to your classmates. Go stand up in front of the class and say, hey, my name is Anusha. Nice to meet you guys. Just wanted to introduce myself. If you need anything, feel free to talk to me. That's it. 3 seconds. Take that 3 seconds and do it. The 7th thing is they do not give up easily. So emotionally strong people love adversity. They love understanding that they love setbacks because they understand that it's a part of the journey towards success. The amount of times I've thought about, hey, should I do this podcast? I mean, is anyone even going to listen to it? That's a great point for me because, like I said previously, I love proving myself wrong and I'm just going to keep going. Because I think it's like that digging story, right? Like when someone's digging to find the treasure, one person gives up when he's so close to getting that diamond and the other person doesn't give up and he finds that diamond. Kind of like that story. Remember that. It is so easy. Also, it's so easy to give up. It's a matter of, it takes like 1 second for you to give up, just for you to say, I'm not going to do this. And then it feels so liberating when you give up, right? It's just like, oh my God, I'm so glad I don't have to do this anymore. But do you think that's going to help you in life? Not really. So even in the face of multiple failures, if you have any, keep working towards your goals. So emotionally strong people, even in the face of multiple failures, they keep working towards their goals with determination. The 8th thing is they do not let fear hold them back. There are so many ways that you could just like brainwash yourself into not wanting to do something. There are so many ways for you to give up on something, right? For you to trick yourself and tell yourself like, hey, you cannot do this. You cannot go and stand in front of the entire class and talk to people. Why not? Because you think your English is not as good, because you think that people are just going to laugh at you, because you think that nobody's going to listen to you when you talk. But how about if they do? But how about, it's mostly not about others here. It's not about what others are going to say. It's about how you're going to feel, right? How are you looking at how they are looking at you? That's mostly what paralyzes people when they want to go and talk in public. If you just go up, stand on the stage and introduce yourself, and let's assume worst case scenario here. Let's say that nobody's paying attention to whatever it is that you're saying. Nobody is even looking at you, but you took that step. You went on that stage. You introduced yourself. The feeling that you get after doing that, you just shifted your identity. You just shifted who you are as a person. And that will stay with you forever. For example, I am a classical dancer and I've been dancing for almost 23, 22 years now, but I've never had to talk on stage. I'm just dancing. No, people are just looking at me. I don't have to talk to anybody. Nobody's going to know what I'm doing, if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I've been on stage my entire life. I've sang on stage. I've danced on stage. I have done a lot of fancy dress competitions. I've done so many things on stage. I've lived on stage my entire life. But the one thing that I've never had the opportunity to do is to talk on stage. When I first got that opportunity a couple years ago, I jumped on it. I said, I want to do it. I do not care what anybody's thinking of me here because I didn't know anybody in that crowd. There were probably like 200 people in that crowd. I took that chance. And ever since, I've called myself a public speaker. And look at me now. I'm doing a podcast. I appear on so many videos across my podcast platforms. I've done so many things on video. So I didn't let my fear hold me back, and it improved my skills. The 9th thing is they don't constantly compare themselves to others. How easy is it for us to just look at someone and think, wow, but he or she has this, but I don't have that. It is such an easy thing to do. Again, inner work. It's not about other people. It's not about what other people think about you. It's not about what other people have. It's mostly just about hey, who am I? There are two ways to look at this, right? The first thing is you need to recognize your unique qualities and strengths. The second thing is if you do find something else in others and you think, wow, they have this, I wish I had that, make yourself that person. But see if that aligns with your unique qualities and strengths. Because if you're just going to copy someone else and turn into someone else, you're losing your unique qualities and you're losing your unique strengths. What makes you you are your qualities, your strengths, your values, whatever it is that you stand for is what makes you. So instead of feeling inferior when someone else achieves success, celebrate your accomplishments and focus on self-improvement. The last one, the 10th one, is they do not neglect self-care and self-compassion. The whole point of this episode is to tell you that most of the stuff that we go through on a day-to-day basis, if we do more inner work than looking at what others are saying, how others are reacting, it just makes you better as a person, not just for yourself, but also how you show up in relationships, how you show up in life generally. So emotionally strong people prioritize their mental and physical well-being. It's important to understand that taking care of yourself enables you to be strong for others. This podcast will never tell you that you need to be selfish. This podcast will never tell you that you only have to care about yourself. We all care about everyone. We need to care about them. We are all humans. We need people. I've talked about this before. We always need people around us. But if you can show up better for others, if you can show up stronger for others, and I don't mean in a way where you can never be weak, and there's no such thing as weak. You can always be yourself. But how well you understand others makes things easier. Makes it easier for them to understand you as well. So you need to set time for relaxation, for exercise, for self-reflection, showing kindness to yourself, even when it's really challenging. These things will help you become emotionally strong, and it'll help you maintain resilience and just help you pivot when you have really tough times. And life is all about having ups and downs, right? But this will help you just understand things in a much better way with confidence. And that's all any of us could ever hope for. So that's all for today's episode. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram if you have any comments on this. If you want to talk more, if you have any recommendations or any feedback, use the Q&A box to do so. Use the poll to answer a few questions. Share this episode with people you think could benefit from it. I would love to know what you think about this episode as well. Now go, grab your cup of lemon water, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.